enter. The clock is ticking. Here's the details. For your chance to win, text WIN to 81119. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Go to the website or enter via the This Morning app. Entries cost £2. Call 09068 78 119. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and phone number to WIN13 PO Box 7558 Derby DE10NQ. Entries must be 18 and over. Lines close on Friday 28th of March at 3 p.m. and we'll be calling the winner live during Good Morning British Lorraine This Morning or Loose Women after all entry routes have been closed. Good luck.
Yes, good luck with that. Now, she's the self-help coach and manifestation guru. Whose best-selling books have helped millions of people around the world.
Yeah, Roxy in the Fousey is on a mission to help you transform your confidence for the better. Something she says anyone can learn to do with some very simple everyday habits.
And Roxy is joining us. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's so funny. So many people struggle with confidence. Why do you think that is?
I think there are so many reasons we struggle with confidence. Some of it is evolutionary, so we have a negative bias, so we're more likely to focus on the negative. Some is to do with our upbringing. I mean, the way that I see it, when I look at my son who's 5, kids are kind of born full of confidence, right? You've got little girls dressed up as Elsa in the supermarket, they're not self-conscious, they are happy to show off as any version of themselves that they want to be that day. And I think we all start off like this. And then something happens, and that's life. And life happens to us. And we essentially all come to believe one thing, which is that we're not enough as we are. And then we keep trying to mold ourselves into what we think is lovable or desirable by our parents, our friends and peers in society. So I think it's really no surprise when we consider all of that we sort of grow up believing, we're not good enough, and all these insecurities start to compound, and it's exhausting.
Yeah. So you end up getting conditioned into losing the self-confidence that you have as a child. And you believe actually, if you think about that, learn to be like that, we can learn the other stuff, we can learn to be confident and to upskill ourselves there.
Yeah, 100%. I spent all of my life full of self-loathing. I hated myself, I really did, and I always felt like such an outsider.
That seems extraordinary, Roxy, because obviously you're incredibly successful, you've sold a lot of books, you're sitting here talking about how you can share your confidence and how people learn confidence. What was it that was the crippling anxiety that you dealt with? How did that come about?
I grew up in Oxford as an Iraqi, and very early on as children we noticed our differences. I wasn't eating, sandwiches for lunch, I was given hummus and flatbread. I wasn't celebrating Christmas, I was celebrating Eid. I looked different to the other kids. And, you start feeling other very young. And for me, this kind of feeling other made me act in ways that I regretted. I tried to get attention from boys, or I then turned to drugs and alcohol, later in my life as a form of escapism from that self-loathing. And it held me back in so many ways, and I know so many people listening and watching are going to feel the same, that they know that they've been held back by their own self-doubt, limiting beliefs. And I suppose when I delved into the world of manifestation and self-development, I realised that actually we have the power to believe we're not enough. We do have the power to believe that we are. And for me, it was all the things that I made achieve over the last few years. The gift that I've given myself is this gift of confidence. It really transformed my life in every way. It's little things, right? It's being able to go into a yoga class and be the most inflexible in the room and not care. Yes. It's being able to walk into a party on my own and feel comfortable to introduce myself to someone. It's all these little ways that confidence really makes your life so much more fulfilling.
Yeah. What's so interesting as well, I feel like, this is me personally, but sometimes on a day you can feel really confident, and then it cuts to the next day, and you just really don't. And I don't really know why, and there's no rhyme or reason to it, it's just how you feel on the day. So what steps can we do so that if we are not feeling very confident, we can take these steps to get us to that place?
Yeah. So in my new book, I lay down 8 really clear steps. Whenever I write books, I want them to be really actionable, really easy to read, and for people to be able to really understand what is this formula to confidence. It's filled with exercises you can do every day. But if I give just a couple to people listening today, so one of them is called the power pose. So there's this which you walk into a room. So, you know, sort of hurrying in, you know, where you've got that kind of anxious energy. It's going in with intention. I always think to myself, and think for people, remember that you deserve to be in every room you enter, you know, and feel deserving of taking up space, and show yourself that you are by walking slowly, with intention, speaking slowly, slowing down everything.
So we've got some steps, right? I want to go through these because I think it's going to be really helpful for everybody. You talked about a couple. Can we start with number one, step one, master your thoughts?
Yeah.
So what do you mean by mastering your thoughts?
So this is sort of the hardest step for people to manage because our inner critic, I think, is so overwhelming and loud. And I think of it like, imagine that you're a comedian on stage, and imagine you go on stage and you're being heckled, and the audience are being pathetic. You know, your jokes are no good, good enough, or, you know, throwing things at you, whatever it is. And if you are that comedian, it's going to be very, very hard for you to give your best performance because people are putting you down, it's making you self-conscious, feel off. Whereas if that comedian went on stage and the audience were cheering, laughing, nodding along, they would likely give a better performance. Now imagine that in our lives, when we're going into dates, social situations,
In
big meetings, we're heckling ourselves.
Yes.
You're not going to do it right, you're going to mess up, you know, you're no good. So how can we expect ourselves to give our best performance? So in the book, I give lots of different kind of ways that we can actually rewire the way we think, using practices like affirmation, interviewing our thoughts, and even just having awareness of why we are interpreting things in certain ways.
And I do like that idea. It's interesting that you were saying if you're going to go into a job interview, for example, just giving yourself a pep talk. It's an amazing little story in the paper from Tom Cruise, Haley Atwell, talking about working with Tom Cruise. And she gets rid of with anxiety going into press conferences. And something that Tom Cruise helped her with, he said, she said, if I walk into a room, I feel the anxiety is coming, it makes me want to retreat into myself. He said, try doing the opposite. Try to look out and look around the room to go to where it is. Where is the thing that I've attached my insecurity on? If I keep looking long enough, it tends to be no more than a monster under the bed anymore. So it's almost like she sort of tries to visualize it, realize it's not there, and then it's gone. I love that tonight.
Yeah, you know, we have so much power to change the way that we think and change the way that we feel. And I really do think this kind of lack of self-esteem is a global problem. And I am on a mission to help people feel better and fulfill their potential and step into their power, and they can absolutely all do that.
I remember someone telling me, and this is a very simplistic way of saying exactly what you're saying. It's a little bit of fake it till you make it. I know that sounds wrong,
No.
but if you kind of get, it's like this one about show up being your best self. Wear the clothes that make you feel better. Put on a pair of heels if you're a lady and one of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I say fake it till you become it. So
Yeah.
visualize the best version of you that can exist. And think, how do they show up? How do they walk into a room? Well, how do they dress? How do they speak? What boundaries do they have? And how can you start acting as that version of yourself from today? Bring that version of you to life.
I'm an interesting one, step 3. Stop trying to be liked by everybody.
Yeah.
I'm an absolute people person, people pleaser, I'm desperate for that sort of thing. So why do I not need to worry about that?
Oh my gosh, it's an impossible task, and this is, for me, my favourite step. This is the one that is going to liberate you. And I share these 4 essential truths in the book, and one of them is it's not personal. People aren't thinking about you as much as they think they are. You think you are. You know, if you're in the gym and you trip up, or you do your weights wrong, you think, oh, everyone's noticed. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I love the fact that, you know, one of them is that nobody is like everyone. You know, I think about people that I admire or respect. As much as there are other people who agree with me, there are just as many people who don't like that person or can't stand them. And when you realise that no one is liked by everyone, so I may as well just be myself, you know.
Confidence comes from that, and then I really like this one because this is something that I've experienced. So, be of service to others. Realise actually the difference you can make to other people fills you with confidence as well.
Yeah, I think that people forget this part of the confidence journey, but we need to feel that we are of value and that we are needed, and it feels good to do good. And I think being of service is, you know, random acts of kindness, giving someone a compliment, helping your community, helping your neighbour, your family. It makes you feel good, feel loved, feel, you know, something perfect.
Well, your new book, Confidence, 8 Steps to Knowing Your Worth and How to help one couple dazzle on the dance floor and have a big day.
She will fill them with dancing confidence,
She can
that's
do
it.
it.
And their beautiful blooms can transform any street into a rose-tinted dreamland. But how easy are cherry blossom trees to look after? David's going to be getting all up to great to see them.
Shark Swing Striker sponsors this morning.
Get ready for spring with Amazon Spring Deal Days. Up to 45% off. On electronics, home sports and more. Amazon Spring Deal Days. Enjoy days. Say hello to the UK's most personalised Mother's Day card. With stickers, handwritten messages, photos and videos. And now, get 20% off your card this Mother's Day with code MUM20. Surrender to tender. The gravy of these double buckets for £11.99. Get the deal, believe the chicken.
The big bingo game on the 1st of the month at Mecca is legendary. There's £120,000 in prizes to be won. Buy tickets online at Mecca Bingo.
Currently Austin Kitchen, cooking my absolute favourite chicken.
That's when we have all our favorite chicken options. Wings, nuggets, dippers, strips and tenders.
And flavour?
Southern fried, hot, spicy, barbecue, sweet chili and more.
So many chicken options. That's why we go to Austin.
I just really know why my favourite sale on the car. Not got a whole lot of spare cash at the moment.
Why don't you use Carmula? It's a great way to pay for a used car. Not only that, it takes minutes. You pay monthly.
Carmula? Why would you need that?
Breaking news. Young man captured by pirates for ransom demanding money.
Hey, isn't that your son? Why pay any other way? Carmula, the future of car finance.
Whether it's pets needing assistance or the other animals you have, they all make mess that goes deeper than the surface. Way deeper. Well, that calls for the award-winning Vax Spot Wash Home Pet Design and Cover. Lightweight, compact with an advanced home pet and car toolkit for every task. The spin scrub hand tool takes